have a very hype match for you between hycutype and fcoughlin. I am joined today by amazing Ampros and Rainbow Poogle on commentary today. And how are you doing today?
I'm doing just great. Thanks a lot for the restream, and I think we have a pretty good one coming here.
I'm pretty excited for it.
And no build-up or anticipation because we're already off with an already divergent start. Fred using my preferred strategy of starting in the Sanctuary and seeing where that goes, while hycutype's pulling what some of us call the J. Coper, where you immediately go to this northwest Hylia area. Not a ton of runners do this, but it's pretty similar to a lot of other starting strategies.
Now we're gonna see our runners find the witch's hut immediately, apparently. So as that shows, all of the entrances are, well, everywhere. So there's gonna be the witch's hut in the fortune teller's hut. There's gonna be a lot of
dynamic things we mean to say. Early on, we see Fred kind of going through a typical route, checking some of the drops and whatnot, while hycutype found Paradox Cave. Without bombs, he can't do anything, but that brings up two important things he's going to want to think of. Early on, you're looking for entrances with a lot of items, and Paradox Cave 7 items are very appealing. But you also have to think about the idea of connectors. The Crossworld in this tournament name means that that you will find connectors that bridge you straight to Dark World, and that can be very important either to your benefit or your detriment, and I think we're going to see a lot of that.
It also adds for a lot of interesting routing options, considering you can find your way into the Dark World through a Light World cave, not have the Moon Pearl, end up going into Ganon's Tower like 15 minutes in. Who knows?
And yeah, kind of an immediate little difference that I don't think is going to be too critical here, but does show some of the difference of experience these two runners. When hycutype got those bombs out of back of escape, his just automatic priority was, or out of Sanctuary rather, his automatic priority was checking back of escape. Whereas Fred just moved on and used his bombs elsewhere. They work out fine, back of escape didn't have anything super critical. But just those immediate connections you form of, I have bombs near Sanctuary, let's get 3 items, are kind of a difference. And that kind of gets into who our two runners are. hycutype is a very experienced runner of this mode. He's been playing this about as long as it exists. Fred comes from a very different background. He is the developer of the Zelda 1 randomizer. Among other randomizers, he's quite a prolific creator. He has very little experience with this mode, but he knows just the idea of randos in general, so you'll see him make plays that aren't really meta, but are him kind of deducing how randomizers should work. And it's really interesting to watch.
Oh my goodness. So, guys, gals, and non-binary pals, it is 3 minutes and we found the big key to Ganon's Tower. And the lamp, and the cape, and the big key to Ice Palace. How's that for a start?
I tried to tell you guys that those high item density caves are good.
So, what do you think the chance we're going to see a really early Ganon's Tower play if they find it?
I mean, the thing with Ganon's Tower in this mode is it's actually always on your mind the more experience you get as a player. Because even when you can't do Ganon's Tower, it's 27 items, which is just so many. I think I've played like one seed ever where it didn't have anything important in it at all. So you're always thinking, where is GT? When am I going to find it? When am I going to make the play? The Ganon's Tower big key just removes an element of risk to that, because orphaning that big chest is one of the scariest things. Of course, we have our counter of upstairs, but we're not going to worry about the upstairs quite yet.
This seed just keeps on giving and giving. We've got Turtle Rock and Swamp Palace as our 5 and 6 crystals.
Those are actually fairly poor. Well, they're good and bad. The good is with Turtle Rock and Swamp Palace. Oh, nice connector for hycutype, by the way. Goes nowhere useful, but rules out an annoying cave. But the kind of bad news is that those are two very item-heavy dungeons that are both crystals. So that already confirmed we definitely need the hookshot. We definitely need both rods and the cane. We definitely need Swamp Small, Turtle Rock Big. So that could be kind of an ordeal. The upside is the odds of the super bomb being required just went way, way down.
And if there is something that ends up behind that super bomb, it's... I don't even want to think about what's going to be behind there, if anything.
Like, the main sort of things you'd likely see if it's required are, like, a nearly empty crystal dungeon that's just the last step in logic would be about it. Because it's just, like, it's possible that they'll be led to it early, but if they do, then that's in its own way a blessing, because if you really find every piece for Swamp and Turtle Rock early, you're doing pretty well.
That's a lot of items to have in a decently early fashion, and that means that you can get through a lot of other things as well.
And yeah, both runners found kind of a lot of their own value. hycutype getting a little extra juice for finding that Paradox Cave, but both are making their way toward Kakariko now. Kakariko is by far the most entrance-dense area of the game, and it has basically no requirements to check almost anything in town, so you'll almost always see it's an important priority of runners to just find what this zone has to offer early.
You were saying about getting Swamp Palace items early? They're the flippers. And the big key.
Well, the big key's more a convenience than a real Swamp Palace item, if
True,
you know what I mean.
It does mean they don't have to orphan that chest going in there.
But yeah, the flippers actually have an interesting secondary effect here. You notice Fred's a little behind on his checks, and the reason is that he made an early play over to do the Houlihan room, which gives the players 225 rupees, but of course takes a little over a minute to perform. Now, early flippers can mean early Zora. Fred is prepared for that, and hycutype is not even close, so that could be an interesting situation as it develops.
Now, hycutype went back specifically for this one bombable hut that has the 4 bomb drop. Since both our runners saw Mini Moldorm Cave, he is going to fill up on bombs just so he can get this out of the way, since there's 5 more items in here, too.
Yeah, Mini Moldorm... We've actually found 2 of our 3 5-item caves early. You have the Mini Moldorm Cave, you have Hype Cave, and you have Blind's Hut. And they're just 5 very quick items. Like, early on, you can't do a lot in dungeons. Oh.
You were saying about the keys that matter in Swamp Palace?
That one really matters a whole lot. I'm not going to tell you that one doesn't. But, yeah, your goal is to find caves like this because you get things like that. And that sets you up to make early plays to dungeons. And certainly with the flippers and small key, I mean, we still need a lot of pieces because you have to find 2 different entrances to enter Swamp Palace as well. Swamp Palace itself, of course, but we also still are looking for that ever-pesky dam.
Oh dear. That was a big key in the library. And we've already found one of the few big keys that does not matter. So that has the high chance of actually being something they need.
Yeah, the only big key that would be just kind of irrelevant to them would be the Skull Woods big key at this point. So certainly that's worth keeping an eye on. Some runners would be happy to see that because it kind of increases the odds they're getting those boots in good order. But others would be concerned. And we've just found our last 5-item caves, which had our silver arrows. Obviously do nothing for us without the bow, but you always have a little smile on your face when you find them anyway.
Means one less thing that they have to worry about.
Yeah, like the thing with silver arrows, with runners of this caliber, they obviously never need silvers. These two players would easily be able to handle Master Sword, Silverless Ganon, whatever. But silvers are faster and easier, and they one-shot just about everything, so if they do get an early bow, there's actually a lot of residual time savings throughout the seed.
Is there anything that the silver arrows don't one-shot?
I know of two cases. The most prominent one is Vitreous's Big Eye, which they two-shot. They do 100 damage, he has 128 health. They also don't one-shot Pokies. They're a two-shot on them as well.
Huh. Hey, well, what do you know? The tavern's still slightly around. Oh, hello.
Yeah, I'm always sad when the tavern doesn't move into a cave entrance. I don't get to make my hole in the wall joke today.
No, but we've, 10.5 minutes in, we found Ganon's Tower with the... Okay, then! Alright.
So, Bow and Glove is obviously fantastic. Fred is being presented with an opportunity to make a big mistake, and hycutype's being presented with the opportunity to make a big play. With the Bow, Ganon's Tower Big Key, and the Lamp, hycutype could take the key and do Upstairs GT right now. He has everything he needs.
He's got the bow, silver arrows. Oh, you think he'll do it?
I would be shocked if he did, but 2 of those 4 chests are in logic right now. This is a veteran like hycutype instantly realized that as soon as he saw that bow there. So that's going to be in the back of his mind, like, I hope I find a sword or a hammer because there could be something really bad in my short-term future if I don't.
I really like this play by fcoughlin. Maybe didn't feel comfortable with the bombs going into Mini Moldorm Cave, left, has the bow and silver arrows, and just wrecks the place. And is going to get his Minpro. Maybe now that he has the bow and silvers, it'll lead him back to Paradox Cave to get those other items that, like, the lamp is really nice. I would not be surprised if both runners can do dark rooms, absolutely no problem, but it's still just a nice thing to have.
Yeah, Fred's issue there isn't that he wouldn't want to do Paradox Cave. He certainly would, but he hasn't seen it. And now that he has a Moon Pearl and a glove, there's just a lot of other paths he might get pulled on, and he might not locate that entrance for a while. Now, a lot of people who are kind of new to the mode sometimes confuse that for being behind. Early on in these races, it's important what you find, but it's really most important just the coverage of the map you get. You know, just gather everything easy, and what order you do it probably won't decide the race. But we're definitely could see some significant divergence in how they go about things thanks to their different starting routes and that early lamp for hycutype.
Yeah, depending on what they see and when they find it, routing could be completely different directions. Honestly, I think what hycutype might be doing is heading up this direction, checking Lost Woods, and then going up Death Mountain potentially, or at least... Or not. I take that back. We have found the Eastern Palace, and doesn't have the big key, so it doesn't look like he's going to check that immediately. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up checking these caves and then checking the Death Mountain cave, considering he has the gloves now.
Yeah, he'll certainly check that cave en route, and hycutype hasn't done this North Light World at all, so he'd be able to drop in Sanctuary if he wants to. I don't remember what the drop there is. I'm pretty sure it's not helpful right now, but in hycutype's mind, this is extra value at least.
Oh dear. A thought just occurred to me. They've got the lamp, the cape, and a castle tower key. Now, technically the cape doesn't really matter because we can't really go in the same entrance that it would be in, but that's both items in Castle Tower if they find it. And that's never a nice thing to know.
Honestly, in terms of just the items in Castle Tower, I don't think either runner is going to be too worried about that because they have a bow and silver arrows, and this game loves giving you 10 arrow chests, so even though hycutype has no arrows, it's already solved. So he's very easily going to be able to kill the enemies and get those 2 items. So that would actually be a blessing to see Castle Tower if we happen to encounter it.
That is 2 free items at their disposal.
But yeah, Fred's kind of doing what I consider a very reasonable play given his knowledge and item set. Usually you avoid going south when you have other good plays, and going east is a good play until you have a glove. But Fred now has a glove. And the second, kind of the corollary to that, is you often want to avoid taking connectors until you have a Moon Pearl. Fred has a Moon Pearl. It's very easy to imagine that he's not going to make a big priority of the early Light World entrances.
Well, there's Turtle Rock. Or at least part of it.
Yeah, something you kind of have to learn playing this mode is how you handle Turtle Rock with very poor equipment, but there's also totally a discretion is the better part of Valor thing. Sometimes you find late game dungeons in difficult situations with very poor equipment, and you have the situation of, I could do that, or I could just go and find the easy stuff and then do that twice as fast. And I think Fred made that call there. But yeah, we do see another... Fred is making his way to Paradox Cave, and this will also lead him to East Death Mountain, as hycutype got to, which we know didn't have a lot of value, but again, covering that geography. Well, hycutype made his way to the potion shop. This is not really realistic for Fred to access. He didn't have flippers when he was in the area, and we get Turtle Rock Laser Bridge.
And Blue Mail, that's really nice. Considering, as you said, discretion is the better part of Valor. If you don't have enough equipment, enough hearts, you're gonna get hit pretty hard, but that's gonna give a bit of extra safety. Though, also having half magic and the cape does not hurt the situation at all.
Yeah, and Blue Mail's kind of a funny mixed blessing. When you're an experienced runner like hycutype, you're often a little annoyed at super early Blue Mail because it really does make death warping a lot harder before you have the mirror and can just warp out of dungeons easily. But I bet in this seed, knowing that there's that upper GT looming as a possibility, hycutype isn't too sad about that Blue Mail.
So it looks like fcoughlin is going to start going through some of the entrances in Death Mountain. There's a lot of caves here, a lot of potential ways to go. And it's also pretty easy to lose track of where you might end up, because all of the connectors.
Yeah, East Death Mountain without the myths is pretty constrained. We already saw this on hycutype's end very early. I think the conclusion is Fred isn't going to find too much, but I don't know that we saw that hookshot cave as a connector. I think this other cave is a different connector that hycutype did take. Or no, it isn't. I'm wrong.
Well, that answers my question of where I missed the big bomb shop being at. So we are going to see where this cave lets out. And it lets out at a completely useless location.
So that was mostly useless, but what Fred could have done, He found the Elder House under the 50 rupee rock. I'm not going to pretend I know if he's seen the other end of that, but I suspect given how early it is, he probably hadn't. That would have been a little time savings to go and take that other connector.
Oh, that's true.
Because, yeah, kind of one of the skills that I think is really important in this mode. You obviously don't know what you're going to find at any time. You don't know when a connector is going to throw you across the world. You risk manage a little, but there's a lot of kind of react to a situation and quickly decide on the best route you can. I will say it's always better to quickly decide to do the wrong thing than slowly decide to do the right thing, but that's, I guess, part of what makes it exciting is when you have runners that understand that, you frequently see some interesting calls made.
Well, we also found the third out of 4 entrances to Turtle Rock at the Vanilla Eastern Palace location, which we really can't do anything with because we don't have hookshot yet, but it's still really nice to know. Like, both runners are getting a lot of information.
Yeah, if you're a reasonably good player, and these two more than qualify for that, the information density of early game in this mode is nuts. So there's really a lot to say. I think Fred is almost, well, both of them have almost completed Light World. Fred hasn't covered the eastern area yet. hycutype hasn't covered the southeast area. And I think you're going to kind of see them trade off on those very shortly.
And we're going to find out that Misery Mire is the green pendant. I'm not sure whether to be happy about that or concerned. Oh.
Well, given that we already need the red cane, I would be a little annoyed if, like, that's an okay pendant to get, except you already need its item for Turtle Rock anyway, so thanks, game.
I believe we have all the items to go through the top of Cannon's Tower now. Or at least a decent amount of it.
To clarify, we did before. The hammer just makes it less terrible.
Okay, well, let me rephrase that then. To reasonably go through Cannon's Tower.
Yeah. The hammer doesn't really change the core situation, where we can't cross the Moldorm 2 gap, of course, because we don't have hook shot. It lets us kill him. But, just going up, the gauntlet is very difficult without a real reliable weapon. And hammer's a little more awkward to use than a sword, but it is a million times easier to use than a bow and arrow.
Well, that's all 4 Turtle Rock entrances now.
Finding all 4 TR entrances early is actually kind of nice. Because one of the big decision points you see confront a lot of runners is, how do I spend my Turtle Rock keys? Do I chance opening certain doors? And with all 4 of the entrances, easy in Light World, it's not much of a call. Just go to the best entrance and do the thing, right?
Sounds about right. Alas, King Zora, you have failed us once again.
Hey, for one, King Zora loves you, just in this case only a little bit. And for 2, if you had to pay 500 rupees to be led to this wonderful big key, were you really robbed?
You know what, considering it is one of the ones you absolutely need? Nah, I actually think it's pretty okay. That does also narrow
King Zora
down...
will accept your apology in the form of a 500 rupee donation next seed you play.
I'm sure he will. That does also narrow down what big key is on the library ledge. Bookshelf thing.
Yeah, that one's going to be looming. And like something you might have noticed when hycutype ran into Eastern Palace earlier, And Fred actually made the same decision. They immediately just declined to enter. And seeing that big key on that library is going to make them even more hesitant, because in both of their minds, it's like, man, what if that's just the eastern big key? I can find my boots and I don't have to double dip. That might not work out, but it's a beautiful thought that I expect these runners to try to hold on to until their options start getting worse than they are now.
Considering it might take a bit for their options to dry up, we'll see what happens. I'm honestly waiting for that Cane of Samaria to show up because it gives a lot of things to do basically right away.
Okay, so in their current situation, what would Kane let them do? It would let them do GT Tile Room. It would let them get, I believe, 2 chests in Turtle Rock. That's it, right?
I feel like it would get them more than that since we've seen all 4 entrances. Oh wait, they don't have the big key yet. That's fair.
Yeah, and they also don't have the Fire Rod. So from the front door, they can only get one of the 3.
Good point.
But we see Fred doing the most hilariously easily forgotten Dark World access method in Entrance Keysanity, and that's the portal you use all the time in every other mode. This is actually a pretty easy to agree with play that Fred's making. Like, the downside of going to Skullwoods early, no Skull Big Key, no Fire Rod, you can make a backtrack. But you need a Skull Small Key to beat Mothula eventually. And if you just route Skullwoods properly, you can guarantee that you leave with one. And certainly Fred is setting up with that, with the extra benefit of 4 chests on his way.
Well, it doesn't look like hycutype actually has to take that portal because the other entrance led him out of that one house that I really don't know what the name of it is, but it kind of exists. Because it's not the Dark World Lumberjack house, it's just something else right next to it.
Yeah, that shop, very easy to forget in vanilla. It was the rare shop that sold the red shield, the 10 arrows, and the ever-important bee refills.
Oh. Yeah, I can see why I forget that. Goodness, I haven't played vanilla in a very long time.
Yeah, and in the rando, there's, like, no conceivable reason you would ever go to that shop or to that screen. Even the Light World equivalent of that screen, it's not worthless, but it's the road less traveled, I would say.
Ooh, well, there's a decent fetch quest item.
Fred, of course, taking advantage of the topography of Skull Woods. He gets a hand to get out of the dungeon very easily.
And it looks like hycutype will be joining him in there. Or, I suppose, both in and on the way out.
So here's a little, like, experience difference here that gave hycutype just a very small time savings there. We have quick swap in this tournament, which means you can swap your items freely with LNR. Every time you see an enemy about to get in hycutype's way, you'll notice he quick swaps to his boomerang, stuns them and walks right through them, and then goes back to his hammer for general use. Well, Fred's just fighting his way through with the hammer. What Fred's doing isn't much slower, but that just little bit extra hycutype squeezing out is kind of one of those impressive things you see, because sometimes these are games of margins.
And every second counts. Fred's gonna get another hand here. Now, the interesting thing about this is that considering that the entrances are all shuffled around, even though they're shuffled with each other, as you said, he can leave with that key, where normally you'd have to either save and quit, or just use that key to get out of that one room.
Yeah, And they still need a sword to fight Mothula, but there's a very easy sequence break that I'm fairly certain both runners know to fight Mothula with the lamp instead of the fire rod if they find his entrance. So having this key could potentially save them a lot of time if they find a sword and then find Mothula in some really annoying far-flung location. Because long overworld walks are not how you win races, and you see both runners routing like this to add some insurance to maybe avoid one.
Now this is really nice for hycutype. And for fcoughlin, that small key to Desert Palace gives them 2 items. Again, like one of those small keys that it's just nice to have. It's not required like the Swamp Palace small key is, but it's still just a safety blanket, so to speak. One less thing you have to look for.
So, hycutype, probably despite me, we have fun with each other, is leaving Skull Woods without a small key, actually. The upside, of course, is that he saved the time of doing a room. But he's kind of just hoping, maybe I'll just find one of the 2 Skull small keys on my way. Which, maybe he will. For his sake, we can hope he does. And yes, fcoughlin is Fred, who is the creator of the Zelda 1 randomizer, the Super Mario Bros. 3 randomizer, and the FC bot that we use to make all of our seeds. So if the seed is really, really nice to Fred, maybe we'll wonder, but we won't, because Fred's a great guy.
Well, speaking of the back of Skull Woods, I believe that was the chess game?
Yeah, unfortunately, neither has a sword to take full advantage of it, so we're going to get our item and use a easy Gibdo warp to get back to the door, I expect.
Even with Blue Mail, Gibdo's still kind of hurt.
Yeah, that's a big factor that you see, and I think it actually is part of what makes cross keys sometimes intimidating to newer players, is that Dark World enemies hit really hard. They expected you to have a bunch of hearts, maybe some mail, and sometimes you're just walking around not very protected in these areas. And these runners know what they have to do to handle it, but it can be a little scary at first.
Oh, there's Desert Palace. No, there is Palace of Darkness. We're gonna get a singular. Actually, no, we're not gonna have to get a singular check here. We can get a couple of checks. We have a small key, so we can use that. We can get through the bow side because they have that too.
Yeah, this is kind of a decision of what you do with your 1 key. Because they can go through the bow side. That's a pretty easy decision. That's going to get them to 3 items. You can hammer through on the bow side. You can open the back. You could actually check a very large percentage of Palace of Darkness right now with 1 key. But it can be very slow just going through those same routes over and over. hycutype is going a path that would let him make all those checks, while Fred is going the fast route that is, for now at least, going to seal him away from the back of this dungeon.
And I think that do lends credence again to just how well hycutype knows this mode.
Yeah, though I have to stress, this decision is not obvious at all. You saw even hycutype just had a little bit of hesitation in his movement. You know he was weighing his options, and he decided on this course, and it's totally justifiable, but Fred's is too. It's the sort of thing that good players disagree about what to do in this situation, and it's one that comes up.
So, what's that method of beating Mothula with the lamp that you mentioned? Because that's an option now.
Yeah, it's just a bomb jump. Now, Mothula's kind of spooky with Fighter Sword and 7 Hearts, and in Fred's case, who has the extra key stockpiled, he doesn't even have the blue mail. But it's a thing he can do. Mothula is pretty accessible this seed, so the insurance against worst case isn't quite as important. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him put it off, but it is very much a thing he could do.
The question remains if either runner wants to. I know, I don't.
Yeah, like, if you're really confident and you're an absolute top execution player, I think you do it right now. If you're anyone else, which is most of us, including me, like, you have to kind of weigh. I could have a slow boss fight, and if I die, I just put myself terribly behind. Or I could just wait, and it will probably be fine. It's not in logic without all this other stuff anyway. And I'll walk by this chess game how many other times? It's Village of Outcast, right?
Right.
Of course, later when Mothula drops the boots or the mirror, you're pretty annoyed, but if he drops like the 3 bombs, then you feel pretty happy about your call.
We do know that the purple chest leads to literally nothing, so that is nice to get out of the way. It's usually an out-of-the-way check, especially in this mode, when finding the mitts is not guaranteed at all, and sometimes mitts checks are often left, well, unchecked.
Yeah, it's kind of a big difference point. Also, hi Fred. But like in a lot of standard modes, you think of the Titan's mitts as, you know, one of your core required items. Like in open or standard, it's always required to beat the game. But here, it hard locks 3 entrances and could be Mire access along with the flute. And speaking of movement items, we gotta go fast.
That'll put our runners' minds at ease, considering they can just go and get that one big key in the library. And I know I would be having that in the back of my head, thinking, oh no, when am I going to need this? When am I going to find the boots? They don't have to worry about that now.
Yeah, and like you see, I bet that thought's right on hycutype's mind, because he just found Front of Old Man. Conventionally, you're thrilled to see that cave, because it leads you to West Death Mountain. You get to return the Old Man for an item. It's even in logic here, so you don't even have to turn on your sequence breaking brain. But with these boots, does he really want to get drug up there without a big key that he knows he can get? Right now, it seems like his answer is no.
It also does look like that both runners are going to keep checking a bunch of things in the area and not just going straight into caves. Well, going through connecting caves. Because it is nice to just know things about, well, things. Hopefully both runners are going to make sure that they check the thing that hycutype is checking, which is these bonk rocks, which do have an entrance under them.
Yeah, we did see Fred check this as well. Fred and hycutype are actually just doing mirror inverse routes of each other. I think this is actually just about time equivalent. Where, you know, Fred went north to south, hycutype went south to north.
My feed keeps ever so slightly fritzing on me.
Yeah, it happens. The internet is nicer to some people than others, and you're at the mercy of your ISP.
Yeah, I'm also having a huge storm right now, so I apologize if I suddenly disappear. We are going to get to see that old man check.
Yeah, so I guess they just wanted to finish the area, and they weren't as worried about that big key. I would be very worried about that big key. especially if you find like Hera up here and it's the Hera big key, you'll feel terrible about it. But I mean, it can be hard to turn down what's right in your face, so we'll see how this pays out for him. And yeah, that is a good point. Both of them did skip checking the shop northwest of Dark Lake Hylia, but that's not too bad because with Hammer, Gloves, and Pearl, they can just check it on their way to East Darkworld if they enter via the Hype Cave portal to respond to a concern in chat.
Oh, we found these down. That's nice.
Yeah, and here's another big decision point. So you're in Thieves Town. You have the Thieves Town big key. You have a sword, so blind is easy. And you have the hammer, but what you don't have is the Thieves Town small key. Do you clear the dungeon now for 7 checks, maybe a crystal, and hope you never come back? Or do you wait for that Thieves Town small key?
I'd say you check it. It is 7 chests. And there's the key to Skull Woods you were talking about. But it is 7 chests. It is a lot of... It could be a crystal. It's not that difficult of a dungeon to complete. They've also got the cape, so blind is just a joke. Not as big of as the jokes that blind actually makes, but that's besides the point.
Yeah, and you see, again, the runner's making a different decision here. hycutype leaving and Fred staying. The main reason hycutype wants to leave here is certainly finishing the dungeon would be very easy for him, but you don't want to orphan that big chest. But then again, if there's value in the other chest and there's not value in the big chest, knocking this out now can save time, and this isn't in a very good place to return to until we find the flute. So this is one of those 50-50 calls where we've seen our runners make different decisions, and it could work out either way.
And we are going to find out which decision was the more correct decision. We're also going to find out what this lovely hint tile has to tell us. And it just gets to tell us that it's a secret to everyone. So who knows?
Yeah, and speaking of hints, Fred so far elected not to check the hint in Thieves Town. It is, I think, one of the slower hint tiles to check, so I don't really blame the decision, but we'll see how it works out for him.
So we've got the 2 items in Super Bunny Cave as well as another exit, so we get to find out where that's leading. So far, this check of Thieves Town isn't really panning out for the better or worse, it's just kind of existing. And it'll really be a decent tell whether or not it's good if we find out that it is a crystal and not a pendant with kind of lackluster items.
Yeah, without getting good items, really, if it's a crystal and the big chest is nothing, this is fine, assuming Fred never goes back for it. If the big chest is good, this is very painful, no matter what this is. If this is a pendant, that's slightly annoying, but I mean, you're collecting crystals on purpose in this mode and pendants on accident. Kind of a fact of life.
Yeah. It is indeed a crystal, though, so that is kind of nice. Oh, and this is really nice for hycutype. hycutype hasn't checked this area at all. He can check Agina's cave, he can actually check the vanilla entrance to Desert Palace as well, because he found the book at a Super Bunny cave. That's very often a check you don't get to make.
Yeah, and of course, it's a faster check if you're able to do it from the Mire region with the mirror, but given hycutype's item set and the areas he's located and how many connectors he's seen, he's probably not imagining that's likely to happen, so just take advantage of what's in front of you.
And, what's in front of him is Misery Mire. Speaking of Mire.
So, hycutype was in Sahasrarla's hut. Do we know if he actually talked to Sahas? It's not currently marked, but Sahas told the Mire's the green pendant. And I feel like if he knows that, that's very important to how things turn out here.
I believe fcoughlin spoke to Sahasrarla and not hycutype, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, because assuming that hycutype knows that this is green pendant, in his mind, he's thinking, I can't beat the boss because I don't have Canis Samaria, but I probably didn't want to anyway. I'm going to get the other 7 items. I have a lamp, I have the big key, that's not going to be an issue, and I can never come back here.
Not having to come back to Misery Mire sounds excellent.
Of course, with what we know, it's the green pendant, so that is 2 total items, well, 2 1/3 items blocked behind here. Not that you're going to be sad about anything that happens after this. We have a hook shot.
Oh boy. Well, that's really nice.
So, for me, because of how much entrance I've played, that hook shot means exactly one thing to me in their situation. That is setting the Ganon's Tower alarm bells off. You can do full left. You can do full left. Go to GT. And I bet upon seeing that hook shot, exactly the same bells are going off in hycutype's head.
Well, considering that, let's see, the seeds that I have seen in this so far, I have seen the Fire Rod in Ganon's Tower, I have seen the Boots in Ganon's Tower, I have seen Cane of Samaria in Ganon's Tower. I've also seen the Swamp Palace small key at the Validation Chest for a crystal. So, honestly, it runs the gambit. Or the gauntlet, if you will.
Yeah, I've played a lot of seeds in this mode, and I think it would be safe to say I have seen literally every possible item in Rando in Ganon's Tower at one point or another.
Yeah.
The other fun thing we just saw, Fred just dug up the small key, or the big key to Skull Woods with his shovel, which isn't really helpful itself, but neither has been back to that library yet. And now we know it's a big key that blocks a dungeon, because... Oh, look at that. Fully vanilla Cane of Samaria.
Oh my god. Well, okay. So, from what I know, Fred is who is normally blamed for Zelda 1. Who do we blame for Zelda 3?
Well, you'd probably want to blame some programmer who made this randomizer. I wish you had someone on hand like that.
Oh gee, I wonder who I could possibly side-eye for this magnificent occurrence.
But yeah, I happily accept all blame for everything bad that happens. I actually prefer, whenever I do any rando work, that players personally blame me for all trolls that occur to them. But yeah, that Cane of Samaria has immediately created a situation where hycutype's just going to finish Mire. We still aren't completely sure whether he knows this is Green Pendant, but it's just really hard to turn and leave when suddenly you can finish the dungeon.
I'm still laughing, I'm sorry. That's too good. But I don't blame him in the slightest. Just going and beating this dungeon when you're already here. It just makes sense. Regardless of if he knows if it's a crystal or a pendant, it's just, you're halfway through the dungeon, you've checked everything else, you might as well. And, like, you've got silver arrows. Vitreous is not going to be a challenge.
Yeah, you have to have a little care. He's going in with 3.5 hearts. That means he can take 1 hit of any type, but 2 will kill him. But that only applies if you suck at aiming, and hycutype doesn't, so... Blink if you miss it. Vitreous doesn't have eyelids. He doesn't blink. That was his mistake.
Well, we do get one of the Turtle Rock small keys, which we are going to need.
Are we? We already had... Or we did need one, but it could have been one of the other ones, because we only did need the one, you know?
Oh, right. Goodness, the entrance randomizer just confuses me sometimes. Well, that's a heck of a place for the old man cave to be. I mean, speaking of Mire entrance and all that. And that's really easy access to Ice Palace. I'm surprised hycutype didn't run in to grab the hint, just in case.
Yeah. It's kind of surprising, but it's not that big of a thing. Like, at this point, hycutype's really happy about his options. Like, honestly, I'm gonna guess he's a little slack-jawed that old man cave was right there after Misery Mire paid off like a slot machine behind his book, and he's fully aware that's not a convenient entrance to check at all, and his sequencing was really good. So there's been a series of events really coming up hycutype.
Oh, absolutely. I wonder if he's heading back to the library.
Library and Ganon's Tower, it's kind of a joint move. On the other side, we see Fred didn't have as fortunate a sequencing, but it's leading him in a different direction. Kind of one of the little metagame things that people have started doing a lot, just is kind of a consequence of what they think is a good idea, is this Palace of Darkness area is often one of the last overworld zones players check, but Fred's clearing it out, and for all we know, there's something really important here, and with the world open to hycutype, it could be a long time before he comes over here, so this could be an important edge for Fred if this area holds value.
All right, well, we're going to find out what this big key is, and it is the big key to Tower of Hera, which we haven't seen yet. In fact, I believe that is the only dungeon we actually haven't seen.
We haven't seen the final piece of desert. We haven't seen Swamp or the dam.
And I am corrected immediately. Thank you. I am so glad someone else is here to keep me on track. Also, thank you to both of our wonderful trackers for keeping us on track to begin with.
I mean, I'm not going to lie. I just read the tracker to do that. I didn't just have it like instantly in my brain what they have and haven't seen.
Fair.
But yeah, like we were saying, hycutype's going to clear out GT, find a likely treasure trove. He hopes it's a treasure trove, because even though this almost always pays off, when it's empty, it feels really bad. Yeah, so far it's looking pretty good with Desert Big Key and Master Sword. That's already some good feeling stuff.
That is pretty nice to see. We haven't seen the back of desert, as you said earlier, but when we do, we can just go and deal with it.
Yeah, and like if you're hycutype, you're kind of starting to do a quick count. What do I need for go mode? In terms of big keys, you know you need the TR big key, and there's a good chance you need the Eastern one, or the pod one for that matter. You need both your rods, and it's extremely unlikely that you can get to your remaining required entrances without the mirror, based on what you've seen. So that's probably near the top of your wish list as well.
Aside from that, we've got, what, 4 items? Hypothetically, we only need 2, yes? We only need the 2 rods, yes? Hypothetically?
If both Eastern and Pod are the other 2 pendants, and we can somehow get to the remaining entrances, we need the 2 rods and the Turtle Rock Big Key, and we'd be good. That would be asking for an awful lot, though.
Well, considering we just got 2 swords and the Sanctuary Heart right when hycutype kind of needed them. The seed is coming up hycutype. Like, his routing has been excellent.
Yeah, and Fred's divergence has led him to find Hyrule Castle. He's actually the first player to see any piece of this. And he got Quake down here, which we know opens the Mire main entrance. That's not too exciting. I didn't actually see which cave in the Mire region was the old man. Was it Mire itself, or is it one of the huts?
Right-hand side.
Okay, so that is an entrance that he'll be able to access whenever he takes that save orb. And otherwise not too exciting. Quake and Ether tend to be pretty low value items in this mode.
Oh dear. That's the other glove. Thank goodness it isn't the runner's first glove, but that's still a glove.
And yeah, mitts are a lot less desired than the mirror in this case, but they still do open a couple of entrances for us. We can check the Ice Palace entrance. We can check the hammer pegs. And it's kind of optimistic. But if we can get to the top of the Light World Death Mountain, that lets us deal with Turtle Rock.
That is certainly an entrance for you.
Yeah, the big problem we have with doing that is it's just really unlikely there's going to be a way to the summit of Light World Death Mountain via connector. There's only 2 caves that would lead you up there, and we've seen so many connectors. Like, there's still enough we haven't seen it's possible. The odds are just not very high. And yeah, Chad is right that Fred is doing a fine job of demonstrating the downsides of mail.
I was about to say, I'm also agreeing with chat that red mail was a mistake.
Yeah, this is why some runners find mail just annoying to have. You don't really have a lot of volition in when you get it or don't, but sometimes it's an eye roll item because you know about situations like what Fred was just in. Now, it's something completely different. Hycutype's about to do one of our more exotic bomb jumps, right side GT with lamp. This is pretty advanced, and we'll see how it goes for him.
This looks terrifying. Yeah, that's absolutely terrifying.
At least he has boots, so the movement isn't too terrible to be able to finish this. The only thing worse than that bomb jump setup is doing it all correctly and then not moving fast enough to get to the door in time.
That sounds awful.
Yeah, hycutype pulled that off, without blinking. It was very well done. That is one of the hardest things you can do with bomb jumps. And it got him these 4 checks early. I don't know what they're going to be. I'm pretty sure it's not going to be Fire Rod. So, yeah, those 4 items were pretty much useless, but they could have been good. It looked
Well-
really cool. Isn't that what counts?
Well, yeah. Huh. Now, this is interesting to me. He's not going up the gauntlet.
Yeah, I think it's like one of the single item caves behind Agatu, so it's 4 total items and it's slow. I can understand the decision to put it off when you have this much value staring you in the face.
Yeah, that is a fair point. I would hate to see the validation chest be something that messes our runners up.
If it makes you feel better, hycutype would hate that too.
No more Swamp Palace small keys and validation chest.
I mean, everyone kind of likes to grouse a bit about all these scenarios and how they happen, but you know what actually my favorite thing about playing randomizers is?
What?
So, if you play a lot of video games, you kind of read into the patterns of the developers. They wouldn't really be so mean as to insert horrible sequence here. Because randomizers generate seeds in an inhuman way, yeah, actually they would. It really keeps you on your toes, and at least as a player, I appreciate that a lot.
Oh, that's something that's fantastic. Oh, well, we found the top of Death Mountain.
Yeah, that's really good. That is a large percentage of the mirror locked entrances are now not mirror locked. Hycutype might be able to locate all the required entrances now. There's still some that are mirror locked, but the number just went down a lot.
Oh, and there's 2 basically free items here in Meyer Shed, so that's also really nice. We are also going to be able to see what is, first off, on the floating island, which is a compass, so it's completely irrelevant, and second, we're going to be able to see what the Turtle Rock Medallion is. Now, Fred has Quake. Hycutype does not. If it turns out that this is Quake, then Hycutype's going to have to find... No, not even going to matter, it's Bombos. Now, hypothetically, we don't even have to come back in here, and we just don't need to worry about it. We hope.
But yeah, we do have to kind of be thinking, Hycutype still hasn't found the damn Swamp Palace, or the Tower of Hera, or the Back of Desert.
Yes, Fred,
That's
go!
a lot of good stuff, and our number of entrances is dwindling.
Alright, fcoughlin making a fantastic decision, going to open this up and go into Meyer. Hopefully, he goes through it, because he needs that red cane out of its vanilla location.
And he won't be too upset by the hook shot either, if I had to guess.
You know, I don't think anyone would be upset by a hook shot. Would you be upset by a hook shot?
The only time I'm upset by a hook shot is if I'm looking for an excuse to stay out of Swamp Palace.
Well, it's not like our runners have that excuse, considering they kind of have to.
Yeah, with Swamp being a crystal, and also totally MIA, there's very little reason to object to a hook shot here. And I would also like to clarify for everyone in chat, Fred doesn't rage slash. He just bombs the world.
Honestly, I consider that an acceptable substitute. And hopefully that does lead him back into Ganon's tower, because that is 2 swords he probably wants.
And it's also a desert big key that he probably needs. So that's really quite a bit of value, and that'll present him with an opportunity to make a different decision and climb. Fred has a little more overworld coverage than hycutype, so that might make his decision a little different. Because, while hycutype was going through GT, Fred was checking a lot of that east side of the world that hycutypes avoided.
Ooh, we haven't seen this yet. We're going to see the Desert Palace Big Chest, which the big key in Ganon's tower, for at least this, is completely superfluous.
Looking at the item counts, hycutype has not been in this dungeon at all, which I think we know it's not really going to do anything for him. But in his mind, this is one of the higher concentrations of value he hadn't seen yet, so he's probably going to start to think what next pretty soon.
Also going to find that Dark Palace small key. Might not even need it, who knows? Honestly, I'm surprised we found as few pod keys as we have right now.
Yeah, that's an interesting situation. Because logically, you need all the pod keys to check the entire Dark Maze, 2 of the other chests, and beat the boss. They all have to be somewhere. That makes me wonder if at least one of the pod keys is in a key for key spot in pod, or maybe they're just sealed away in really late game locations and pod is just very empty.
Who knows? So something I'd like to see either runner do, especially after Fred gets the green, I would really like to see someone go back to Sahasrahla and just check that.
You aren't a big believer in the strategy of get the green pendant early and then wait an hour to check Sahas?
No, because Sassafras normally has something in that circumstance, and then when you check it early, he's got nothing anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I think all of us have one time or another done that exact thing where you find the green pendant really early, you're like, I don't really want to go back to Sahas, and then you don't. And honestly, when you make if you make a long walk back to him, you don't even feel better or worse. Like, if he has a good item, you're like, I could have had that a long time ago. He has a bad item, you're like, I could have put this off forever. It's just the worst.
I mean, personally, I'd rather not wait to be disappointed, so...
We did get a bit of a map check, and I believe what we saw is that Ice and Palace of Darkness were pendants.
From what we're being told by one of our lovely trackers, it appears so.
So that's interesting, because you were worried about those Palace of Darkness small keys, and yeah, pod being a pendant actually slots in really nicely with that, as it would kind of make you think as a runner, maybe I'm done with pod already. And if you do go back, then you're not worried about spending your last key, because you're in no hurry to fight red pendant Helmassar King. Or blue pendant, wasn't paying attention. And the ice one is just like, okay, I need Fire Rod anyway.
Or Bombos, depending on what the seed decides to give them.
Well, yeah, but you can probably finish the seed without Bombos otherwise, but you need Fire Rod for Trinex, is what I was trying to say.
Ah, gotcha. So, in which case, because we know where both the red crystals and the blue and red pendant are, we know that then Eastern Palace, Desert Palace, and Hera all have to be crystals.
Yeah, I believe it was hycutype who did the map check, so he now has perfect information on all the pendants and crystals. And not needing pod big key is kind of nice as well. But otherwise, he has some calls in front of him.
Well, he is going to go back into pod. Okay, good. fcoughlin is going to go back into the library for the big key to the Tower of Hera. We know that he needs this, but we still have not seen where Hera even is. Nor have we seen where the back of Desert Palace is, and that's also a problem.
Or the dam, or swamp. It's actually remarkable how many important entrances we haven't seen. It's feeling likely the mirror really is just going to open the seed wide up.
You don't think one of them could be locked behind the Vanilla Turtle Rock entrance, do you?
I wouldn't be closed to the possibility, or the Vanilla Mire entrance while we're at it, because there's not very many entrances left. If one of them is a dungeon that we can make some progress in, and that dungeon has the mirror, it can easily just be a cascading situation.
Oof. And hopefully the mirror is not in one of the pendant dungeons or, like, behind a pendant boss. That would be awful.
Kind of the good news for that is that, you know, like you were getting at earlier, we're really limited on pod small keys. We don't have the pod big key as well, so if that's where the mirror is, we're going to need to find a whole lot more stuff. And we need a tool to even get past the first room Ice Palace, so the other pendants aren't even really options for us at this time.
Well, fcoghlin's gonna go through here, get his tempered sword, get all that lovely bunch of stuff that he's not really gonna need, but it's just nice to have.
Yeah, and we know now that that desert big key that he got out of here is required eventually. We have no idea when or where he can use it, but we know he's going to have to one of these days. On hycutype's side, we see him making the call to go back into Turtle Rock. He's only going to get 2 chests for this, but with what he knows, there's a few options.
I was going to say that one of the chests is now completely irrelevant, we found.
Actually, you know, that chest is fascinating. You know why that Misery Mire small key is so interesting?
No, but I'd love to hear about it.
So, in terms of the logic, you need all 4 Turtle Rock keys to access that chest, right?
Right.
They've only found 1, and they're running low on spots, which means they need 3 more to get that. Logically, you need all 3 Mire keys to get the 2 chests on the left side of Mire. One of them was Hookshot. That means that Hookshot is probably not critical to the logic for a while. And indeed, we haven't seen anything essential Hookshot locked. The Desert Big Key and some swords are it.
Which leads me to believe that Swamp might be intended as a double dip.
I'm dubious about what Swamp's even supposed to be, because at this point in the game, the fact that we're still 2 entrances away from Swamp with how few entrances are left, Swamp could be a really big problem this seed.
Do we know where the magic bat is? Was that in a forest?
That was the magic bat in the sanctuary location that hycutype just checked out for us. Kind of the other implication here is Mitz-locked locations aren't likely to be the immediate progression. I actually look at this, and my thought is I'd bet good money right now upper GT is the answer.
You know, that's an interesting... And considering that hycutype got another Turtle Rock Smoky, I would like to think... Yeah, I think you've got a point. They have been able to go up there for quite some time now. Though that does mean that the validation chest is way out of logic right now, though, because, as you said, you can't... Or apparently you're not supposed to get to the hookshot for a while, and that's interesting to think about.
Yeah, like, you expect if you make the upper GT play that the value is probably going to be in those first two chests, but they're as good as any other two. Though we find another really interesting connector to the top of the castle that the right side didn't pay off, nor did the left. I appreciate those are two unique and equally worthless entrances. hycutype's got to be wondering what's going on with this seed.
So, let's think here. Where have our runners not checked that they still have access to?
I don't believe we've seen either of the truly Mitz-blocked locations they can access.
I like this play from Fred.
Yeah, Ice Palace is one of them.
They have not handed in the Green Pendant yet. I would love to see what that is, personally.
I don't think they've done the hammer pegs either.
Not to my knowledge.
So yeah, we have a couple loose things, and yeah, chat brought up the Smith chain, which is absolutely correct. That's a thing they could do. I just... Call me cynical, whatever. I really have a very strong feeling Mir is an upper GT, and that's where they need to go. But yeah, hycutype's checking East Dark World. Fred checked this quite a long time ago. Unfortunately for Fred, he didn't find much here. Sick Kid could be valuable, but in somewhat of a Christmas miracle, we are an hour 17 in with 0 of the 4 bottles located.
We know where one is, we just haven't been able to get to it.
I'm trying to remember, was it Spectacle Rock that had it?
No, it was the race game.
Oh, yeah, more mirror magic then. Because we found a lot of good connectors going places I didn't think we'd get connectors to. But there's no way after all these wonderful connectors we also have one to race game. That would just be too much. Right, Seed?
Well, if anyone would be asking the seed anything, I would not doubt it was you. So I'm forgetting, but where was Sassafras?
I think he was in the Ice Rod Cave area.
Well, fcoughlin gonna go back and deal with Mothula. Looks like also does know the bomb jump, so is gonna take care of this. Gonna be a little bit faster than hycutype, I believe, because did
Yeah, hycutype only had Fighter's Sword. Fred definitely dealt with those Gyptos in a slower way, so it might go the other way, but we'll just kind of see how it works out. I would also point out to chat in general, speculating about an extra connector. The other reason I think we're done there is because we still haven't found a connector to the floating island, and one has to exist. So whatever the last connector is, it's got to go there.
That is a fair point. We've seen both. We've seen all of the boots lock locations. And we do know the lumberjack ledge is not required. Yes?
I think so.
Because that would be a kick in the pants if that was actually where Ganon is. Because we do have... Ah, lumberjack was uncle, yes. Thank you, chat. Oh goodness, I'm starting to think you're right. I'm definitely thinking that something is up in Upper Ganon's tower. It has to be.
So I think we've already checked Hobo, but I would like to agree with Akin's spirit that Hobo just getting a second item this time and it being the mirror in a hycutype seed is something that would work very well. One of hycutype's long-running gimmicks is never checking Hobo.
Hycutype knows how to get to the top of Death Mountain. Wow, I can speak today. And just found... Wait, no, wow. Quake is for Mire. Oh, I'm sorry. It has been a night. Point is, Hycutype still knows how to get there. We could be seeing a Mire play to open the vanilla Mire location and find out just what is in that thing.
Yeah, with the number of dungeons or dungeon-related entrances we still have to find, it's reasonably likely that that's something good.
And I don't believe that fcoughlin has actually just... I don't believe that Fred has actually found a way up to the top of Death Mountain anyway. Also, I appreciate that Hycutype just completely skipped the red mail on the pyramid to make this death warp so much easier, and considering he's got 17 hearts, that's one heck of a death warp with red mail.
Well, even if I don't turn out to be right about anything else that happened this seed, I was at least right about one thing, so that's nice, I guess. And Fred's going to get a couple more of the entrances he hasn't checked yet. He won't be able to do light side because he didn't find Hycutype's more efficient connector, but he'll still get some of the value here. And I don't think Fred has save warped to the old man, has he?
I don't know.
So this is kind of, it's almost a dirty trick the logic can pull. It can totally be required to rescue the old man for the purpose of saving and quitting to him to access wherever he's at. And you often think about where you can go in terms of what lets you move through the world, but that extra spatial movement through the magic of the menu is totally a possible requirement.
That's terrifying. Goodness me, sometimes this logic is just awful. I mean, in the best way possible, but still.
I mean, there's some downsides to our runners, but I mean, think of the old man. He gets lost in a dark cave, he can't see, you take him out, he's on a mountain with falling sky cabbage, and as soon as he walks in his house, now he's just in the middle of a mire? I mean, he's been on a terrible journey.
I have another question. Have we seen the back of his cave?
I think the back of his cave is what actually led Hycutype to the summit of Light World Death Mountain, isn't it?
Oh, fair. Yeah, no, I think you're right.
So yeah, that's actually a pretty good save warp. And the only way you're getting to either side of it, yeah, it's either that or the castle, which is also a place they can't get to otherwise right now. The only way you're doing anything with his cave is if you save warp.
Because technically we don't need the mirror for that.
So yeah, right now both runners are just kind of clearing off areas the others already been. I think judging by the heart count, hycutype's a little ahead in terms of running out of options before he either bites the bullet and goes up GT or finds the one loose end that is it.
He is going to check
This
Meyer.
Quake Medallion is one of the more appealing remaining loose ends, so this could be interesting.
I agree. This is just a walk out of the old man cave into the awful rain that is Meyer, and then you end up stopping the awful rain so the old man can actually go take a walk, and you get to check this lovely entrance along the way, which is the back of Desert Palace.
So this is probably not instant progression. It could be, but it's only one item. But even if this doesn't get you what you need to advance in the seed, it's still great because you still needed the crystal.
And that's just a great way to get it. I'm wondering when fcoughlin is going to go and actually just go over there. It's honestly wondering when he's going to get to.
Yes, Desert Big was behind Hookshot, technically.
Oh, goodness.
It was in the Stalfos room in GT.
But if that's the hookshot, if the Desert Big Key is hookshot locked, then that puts it further behind the logic than the hookshot, and the hookshot, from what you've said, is already pretty far back.
Yeah, which is fine, because we got a Skullwood small key, which puts Mothula even deeper in the logic, but Mothula and his 10 arrows aren't a huge concern.
Have we checked the big
so
chest
really,
yet?
we've just concluded that the logic expected you to get these 2 crystals very late, but you didn't need these 2 crystals until it was time to fight Ganon anyway, so it's nice to have the crystals you needed eventually. It's just not moving you forward on your progression item list.
Have we checked what's in the big chest of Mothula yet?
I do not believe we have gone back for the Skullwood's big chest.
Oh, but
I
I like
actually think
this.
this item here is another one we haven't gone back for, and I don't know if we've seen this entrance Fred's going in. Now I know we haven't. We
Because
found
that's the
Hera.
Tower of Hera. That's really nice to see.
So Hera's only 5 items, but 5 items is much better density than we were going to see otherwise.
Oh my
Hycutype
god.
finds the Ice Rod in a what I would consider very obnoxious location, which doesn't help him right now, but it's absolutely required to beat the seed.
That is fantastic to know. They are going to need it. Ooh, we're going to get to see this. Which, again, isn't a hint of, we've seen this already. Like, an hour ago.
So I was wrong. Fred just found the mirror in a place I don't think anyone guessed close to, other than our one guess for not in upper GT, which was, well, pretty on point.
It certainly was not in GT. So, with the mirror, what does that open up at this point?
So, that mirror allows us to check the 2 left entrances of Desert Palace from the Maya region. It lets us check Cave 45, the cave north of the graveyard, the race game, Checkerboard Cave. It also just makes getting around the world way easier.
That's just honestly a really nice thing to have then, especially... I had a terrifying thought.
Is it as terrifying as hycutype's thought that putting off the front of Eastern Palace for an hour 30 minutes was a big mistake?
No, but that's close. So, we haven't checked the pedestal yet. And I know I might be an old just rehashing things by bringing up, oh, pedestal this, pedestal that, but it is somewhere we haven't checked yet.
Well, I would agree that's true. Based on what we still need, I feel it's relatively unlikely to be required. If it is, it's going to be something really annoying, like the Eastern Palace Big Key that you just need at the very end, I think.
Or it could be the Bombos medallion to get into Swamp Palace. At vanilla Turtle Rock opening.
Yeah, or it could... I mean, the most spicy thing it could be would be Fire Rod, and you have to find Bombos somewhere to clear Pendant Ice Palace, but it just all seems so unlikely, you know?
Oh, we're an hour and 30 into the seed. We've seen a lot of stuff already, and if things aren't unlikely, then where are they going to be at this point?
Well, I'm going to guess that Fred's call is going to be behind the mirror, because what you gotta think is we haven't seen the dam or Swamp Palace, and if you can find both with your mirror, that Swamp could have everything. Swamp could just be loaded. That's a very plausible scenario.
Oh, that is. Yeah, because Swamp has... what... 10 items? 11?
Yes, it's 10 items in Swamp, which is a pretty large number, and other than the 2 entrances, they've had every item they need to clear Swamp for quite a while.
The only problem is finding it. Right, but Fred is gonna be able to find out what exactly he needs for Turtle Rock. And that still worries me. We haven't found the Fire Rod or Bombos. Oh, ooh, wait, I'm gonna cut myself off here as hycutype's going up Ganon's Tower.
Yeah, I don't know if based on how much I've hyped this run, whether I'm going to feel better or worse if it's nothing, because I have no stakes in this race. I just want the best man to win, but both players have been able to do this for a very long time, and this is very late you're making the call. And kind of like I was saying much earlier, when you make calls to do something you could have done for a long time very late, it kind of feels bad no matter what you find.
I have a slightly off-topic question, more related to what fcoughlins. Have we seen that one cave entrance that's behind those two dark gray rocks on the right-hand side of Death Mountain?
Yes, it was the exit to the Super Bunny Cave connector.
Thank you, because I know that's an entrance that I will very often forget. Yeah, that is an entrance I will forget often exists.
Yeah, that's one of the more subtle gotchas in this mode, because that entrance isn't really hard to get to in a variety of ways. You have mirror ways, you can drop, or you can use your mitts. But it's just that East Death Mountain's kind of a clump of a lot of unmemorable entrances, and that's just the one that's different. It can kind of catch players.
Oh, well, here's one of the other entrances to Desert. Have we seen what the front is?
I believe we've seen all 3 exits of Desert as a connector. I haven't been mapping the seed, but we have gotten quite a bit of spicy connector action this run, I would say.
Yeah, spicy connector action is a very good way to put it.
So Fred's current pathing mostly can only lead him to things we've already seen. Hycutype's getting real close to giving us some intrigue. I'd also like to just give a shout out to hycutype. He totally messed up this room, but he didn't throw good time after bad. He realized he'd messed it up, and he waited for the torches to go out. That's a smart thing. Everyone makes mistakes. The best thing you can do is not make your mistakes twice as bad.
Oh, that's cool! I didn't realize you could actually just get that torch from the very edge of that walkway. That's really neat.
Yeah, that's actually exactly why this upper area is in logic without the fire rod, because it's very difficult to do that room without that. But that's more generous than it probably looks.
Oh no. And with that Turtle Rock small key that puts this before Turtle Rock, which puts this before Mire.
Yeah, this is a case where you correctly lead the logic and you got led straight to the lens of truth.
Oh, that's a mood. I'm cringing from that one.
Now, the mushroom is intrigue. Like, that mushroom could have something good for all we know. Now, I often like to refer to Fetch Quest as delayed disappointment, but you never know, right?
I'm gonna laugh if that is something, considering that we found the Witch's Hut entrance to the inner part of it literally one of the first things we saw.
It's also funny because what the logic expected you to do to get that mushroom was come up here for that Turtle Rock small key, then go back down and go through all that song and dance to get the hook shot because you needed to get a Mire key and then come back again. Which obviously no one would ever do, but the logic has high expectations of our players.
Is there a chest locked behind Aggo 2?
I am not sure, but we're going to find out.
The hookshot was in the left-hand fire-locked side of Meyer.
Yeah, it was Firelocked and
Oh my
Meyer,
god,
the
there's
one
something
that's
in
not
here.
the cutscene. And
Oh my
Fred just
god!
showed us.
I'm sorry, but that's our first bottle. After Aga 2.
It's the first bottle we've picked up. Now, with the mirror and knowing a bottle's on a race game, Fred could have picked up a bottle before. In hycutype's mind, though, that bottle might be critical progression, because he doesn't know where the mirror is. To him, that's just an extra check out of Ganon's tower.
Going straight to sick kid. Oh, well, delayed disappointment it is. I really want to see this mushroom play. I'm so curious.
So, in some good news for Fred, he did actually route to the front of Turtle Rock using some spare TR small keys pretty well, I would say, and got his Ice Rod, which isn't going to progress him, but if the mirror is the path forward, and the Ice Rod's kind of something you could miss on the way, that could be a big thing for Fred, having the Ice Rod before he finds the treasure trove of access expanders.
Alright, we're finding out what this mushroom holds. This was literally the first entrance we saw at the start of this seed, and an hour and 40 minutes in, we're about to find out. Survey says... more delayed disappointment.
I gotta say, I totally agree with hycutype's decision. After everything you went through to get that piece of heart, you're picking it up.
Yeah. I mean, what's also nice is because now that he has a bottle, he can get a blue potion.
I would like to clarify, this is the same man who skipped the red mail, chooses to pick up the piece of heart. There's definitely just a little emotion in that decision, and I don't blame him even a little.
Me neither. So, I still would really like to see what the Smiths hold, because I don't think anyone's done that yet. And we have gotten a hint that the purple chest holds 10 arrows, so that's right out. But we don't know what Jeremiah is going to give us.
Yeah, and a lot of times players kind of want to not do Smith until they find the mirror, but sometimes the mirror's hard.
I don't mean to cut you off, but we found one of the two things we need. That is the dam. That also gets us the one flooded item that we kept having to pass.
And I'd also just like to say in general about finding the dam, you have to feel great about seeing the dam there first, because you're checking a lot of just inconvenient out-of-the-way entrances. And if you find swamp, then the dam, that's just kind of some time loss for bad luck. So, being a smile to your face to bump into them in the right order.
Yeah, no, that is a really nice thing to see. Yeah, hycutype's about to get his mirror right now. I'm really curious as to where Fred's going. Because he seems like a man on a mission. He seems like he knows exactly where he's going through all these connectors to. Just where is he going?
I believe this is the route to check Mimic Cave.
Oh, so it is. Alright, what is this gonna be? Literally nothing.
Well, it could be a hint, but not to Fred, not today.
So, at this point, what have we not seen? We haven't seen the entrance to Turtle Rock. I'm running out of spots to think about.
I don't believe Fred has checked K45 or South of the Grove, which are almost assuredly his next checks. Fred still needs to save warp to the Mire region, and unless he finds the flute, it's seeming incredibly likely that that's actually a mandatory play.
And we're going to see that on hycutype side. Oh, there's Swamp Palace! Well, you were right again.
Oh, Fred does have a bottle, so I wonder if he has done race game and that's where he got it. Well, I have no idea where Fred got that bottle, honestly.
We did find the back of Desert Palace entrance, and that was actually in Vanilla Mire location. A bottle was in the damn chest. Thank you. Thank you, chat. Yeah, that is a good point. Fred found the dam entrance. Hycutype has found Swamp Palace.
I feel like, though, hycutype is much more on the path, because in hycutype's case, it was a pretty logical route that just didn't work out, going to Mire first, because he has the easy save warp. In Fred's case, we have to worry that he doesn't realize that this is a legal play, and he doesn't know he can reach the Mire region, and it's seeming very likely that's what he must do.
Considering that if he just goes there, he can full clear Swamp Palace. Oh, Fred.
Now, the other side is the back of that connector is the top of Castle, so Fred has a second way to save himself here. And that's he can check the top of Castle and just walk through the connector and walk out of his save warp to the Mire region.
Okay, we're finally getting this check of the Skullwoods big chest, and I swear to God, if this is another vanilla item... Oh, thank God. I was about to be both very concerned and very amused at the same time.
I mean, it would have been really precious if that was the fire rod. I wouldn't have been mad.
You probably wouldn't have had me for about a minute and a half as I laughed my ass off. Because honestly, that's just too good.
So kind of a funny thing that you always say about randomizers is the trolliest possible location for any item tends to be its vanilla location. Because you so often need items near where they're found in vanilla.
There we go! We have found our fire rod. I suppose the smiths were using it to keep their forge lit?
Well, they won't be tempering any more swords then, because Fred is in possession of the fire rod, and we're getting pretty close to our objectives. Because we still need the Turtle Rock Big Key and the Eastern Big Key, and then we're in no mode. Though each runner also has some entrances that they need to find that the other has seen.
Well, Fred's about to check this cave and finds Aga Tower, which has another key to pod, and not much else. I'm wondering when he's gonna head back and check the item that he got by letting the water out of the dam. Has he checked that?
No, he hasn't. And it's an item that people... It's just so easy to put off checking it, because it's not really next to a lot of other things. You find the dam late in the game. If you have the flute, you tend to just pop right by it, but if you don't, you're making reasons to not check it, and then before you know it, it's 2 hours in and you haven't checked the drain dam item.
Right. Well, hycutype has now gotten his fire rod as well. So I am wondering where he's gonna go next with that.
I suspect it doesn't change too much for hycutype. It adds back a skull to the list of entrances he's interested in. He might lose a little time checking that, or gain time if it has one of our big keys in it. But
as much as I dislike... Oh, yes, yes, go! Oh, I'm kind of sad now. But to say, as much as I like that Fred not getting the purple chest, it would have also technically put him running down to the dam. Which, at least he knows what's outside of the old man cave now?
yeah, that's very important for Fred. So we kind of went into this, and I think I said in 4 or 5 different ways that hycutype was kind of the favorite. But honestly, now that Fred has that last critical piece of knowledge... Oh, there's another way he could have gotten there with that flute he just picked up.
Well,
Fred is this is a very close race right now. Because they have very similar items, basically the same items. Fred has already drained the dam, and Fred has blind dead.
and is going to bomb the old man but head out of this location. He's gonna get into the back of desert, which is nice. He's gonna find not Skullwoods, he's going to find Swamp Palace because he has the mirror. He can go check Checkerboard Cave. He can knock out 2 bosses right here and now.
And yeah, Fred was playing it pretty cool for most of Seed, but now the gloves are off and the bombs are out. Residents of Hyrule, beware.
Well, hopefully residents of Hyrule are going to be nowhere near where this is going on. But Fred is about to see Swamp Palace. And I'm curious if he's gonna do a full check of this. But he kind of has to, because he's still missing a couple things he needs. He still needs 2 big keys.
Yeah, and as viewers, we don't have a lot of hints. Bamos opens the last remaining entrance in the world, but there's very little value left in entrances. They might believe they found all of the item caves already.
I really hope this does not turn into a Pendant Heist Palace dip.
So what Fred will probably do in this situation is he'll full clear Swamp, he'll find back a desert here, clear it, and if he isn't in go mode after that, he'll go into ice. And if he's really not in go mode after doing these things, that might be the play. I'd also like to just call attention to hycutype's side here. He's making that play for blind, which is required to beat the seed. It'll get him the 1 crystal that Fred has that he doesn't. But he still doesn't have the Thieves' Small Key. So he's also orphaning that same chest much later in the game. It's going to be even harder for hycutype to make the call to go back for Thieves' big chest, if that's really what it comes down to.
Oh boy, that'd be something. I'm honestly hoping that we don't find that key at this point.
I think you and both runners are on the same page with that one. As far as they're concerned, that can be on the pedestal.
If that's required and on the pedestal, I don't even know what to think. Like, that's worse than some of the things I've suggested this seed, and that's saying something.
I mean, I was suggesting it be on the pedestal and just lead to nothing. It's just there so they don't even see it. I was being nice.
Oh. Whoops.
Now, if you want the seed to be a little zesty, it's a thing that could happen.
A little zesty? I believe that would be full-on spicy at that point.
In terms of the state of the race, this is a very close race. I actually would give a small edge to Fred in the current situation, but it's very close and very non-decisive because hycutype's route is about to find the dam. And it's basically what Fred's done in Swamp Palace versus the Landmo kill otherwise. And Fred could be baited into upper GT. If Fred chooses to go into upper GT at any point, he probably loses. But I have a feeling at this point, Fred won't make that decision until it's his last location, and we know it will never be.
That's not the big key they're looking for.
So, pedestal fans, how do you feel about that big key?
Well, and from what I'm seeing from our tracker, we also have the Ice Palace one.
Yeah, like, as a player, I'm not even thinking about big key for most of this run because, you know, you need that big key that's really hard to find anyway before you can even do it. Now it's on the table, but now you have Eastern big key too, so Fred is now one item from go mode. And it's the question, where is Turtle Rock big key?
He's one item and one entrance away because he still hasn't opened Landmo. Has he?
He hasn't seen Landmalice, but Landmalice is just right in this region, and this is going to be all of his next checks.
That's an entirely fair point. It is over 2 hours, oh, about 2 hours into the seed, and I'm starting to lose my mind. Wouldn't it be something, though, if we just had everything we needed in Swamp Palace at this point?
It would be. Certainly, I think Fred has a very big advantage in this race if Argus drops the Turtle Rock big key. But if that doesn't happen, then there's a lot of decisions to be made, because Fred's going to find Landmo, get his small key to Skullwoods and Crystal, and he's going to have to decide where to look for TR big key. He could go into Ice right away because he's in the area, or he could go into Eastern Palace to get the Crystal and 2 chests. But there's probably going to be some decisions to be made.
I honestly say you go back to Eastern Palace, you finish that dungeon, it's a crystal, you know you have to do it anyway, and just try not to have to go into Ice Palace if you don't need to. We finally have seen what the item from Sassafras is, and it's just going to be a 50 rupees.
And yeah, Fred now has a full clear of Swamp Palace that did contain one required item behind him, so Fred's position's looking pretty good. Fred didn't know all the pendants and crystals, but that check just told him that Desert is a crystal, which is one of the most important pieces of remaining information for him.
I have a silly question, perhaps. The door leading to Trinet from Laser Bridge. Don't you just need a small key and not even the big key to go and fight him?
You need the big key. So Turtle Rock and Misery Mire both have this funny thing where there's 2 big key doors in the dungeon. One early on that blocks you from reaching like the whole back half, and then another right in front of the boss.
Okay, so that is right, that door. Oh goodness, this is me forgetting that you need the big key to get to the door to Land Molas all over it, which I have done way more times than I would really like to admit.
You're not a rando runner if you've never done it before, I'll just say that.
Well, hycutype has found Swamp Palace, and I foresee a full clear of that as well.
Yeah, he's going to get 2 items that give him options he doesn't like here, and the Eastern Big Key, which is absolutely required, so it's going to be kind of some mixed feelings for him there. Of course, hycutype could skip left side, and if he does, he'll skip the pod Big Key, which, for all we know, is fine, but for all we know, it leads to Turtle Rock Big Keys, so that's kind of a spicy situation.
I don't think anything left in this seed isn't spicy. Just... whatever happened, it's going to be silly.
I mean, the very non-spicy possibility here is that Eastern Palace just has the Turtle Rock Big Key in one of its 2 chests.
Right, well, we're seeing one of the first potentially big gambles that has to be taken, and that is Fred going into ice. I don't like him seeing that hint. I don't want him to think, oh, I need the mushroom, and go up Ganon's tower. That's a potentially very dangerous idea.
Well, in Fred's mind, that hint is actually not a hint at all, because you normally are thinking there's 4 unknown items on top of Ganon's tower, and that hint tells you the mushroom's one of them, and the mushroom equals 1 unknown item, so there are still 4 unknown items on the top of Ganon's tower, just one of them's now slower.
Oh, that's fair, yeah. Goodness,
But
all
yeah,
the things I'm learning
this is
today.
kind of the big call, because mathematically, Ice Palace probably has the Turtle Rock Big Key. But Eastern is forced, and this isn't, so there's a just catastrophic scenario when you make this call, and it just happened to be easy.
Yeah, that's well, we now know what Skullwoods does not have, and that's really anything for us. Which is honestly a good thing, just, it's one more thing you don't have to go back to.
Yeah, assuming the runners haven't been tracking how many entrances have anything at all of value, which I think most players don't. Back of Skull was unappealing before, but now it's just out of your mind completely.
Literally no earth at this point. Did I just blink and miss a bomb jump? I believe I did.
Yeah, Fred had a little difficulty with the lineup, but really not too much. But yeah, Fred did map check and knows this is a pendant, so... But I don't think Fred actually knows whether Eastern or Pod is his last crystal. So that actually probably is why he's making this decision. Because in his mind, this is the most likely place for Turtle Rock Big Key. And he also might just find one of the maps he needs. Well, there's Turtle Rock Big Key. Fred's in go mode when he sees the right crystal. So, Armos Knights are faster than Helmassar King, and we know they're correct. Let's see what Fred puts together.
well... Let's see, where was Eastern Palace?
Eastern Palace is in the Lost Woods.
He's going to Sanctuary, so he might be heading there immediately. If he goes... Considering that, yes, it's literally in the Lost Woods, he's going to Eastern. This is the right play.
You know, I believe Fred is like me, one of those old pencil and paper forever things. I wonder if he made him note, access Eastern via save warp, and he just didn't remember which one. And that's kind of a funny way different people think about the world, you know? Fred is in go mode when he sees a crystal drop here. Well, he's in go mode either way, but he doesn't know this is the 7th crystal. For all he knows, it's in pod. He has the tools to finish pod, but he's going to be very happy when he sees this crystal.
Yeah, he's not checking any chests. He is just gone.
But yeah, at this point, I think it would take quite a bit for Fred to lose this race. Because hycutype still needs the Turtle Rock Big Key, and he's behind in progress on the march toward the remaining bosses.
And he's leaving Ice Palace behind.
Yeah, hycutype's gonna do Eastern first. He's already checked the 4 chests in here, so in his mind, these are 2 checks directly on the way that lead to the boss. This is like a total no-brainer for hycutype. We just know it's not going to help him. Not going to hurt him much either, but I mean, he needs a game changer at this point, so that's just the situation.
Oh my god, it's a Turtle Rock Small Key.
So, now officially at 2:06, Fred has his last unknown crystal and the hook shots in logic.
That's awful!
I mean, logic's a deep rabbit hole. This is kind of a statement of the importance of carefully spending your keys, because if you just use keys the smart way instead of the worst case way, that hook shot wasn't in a bad spot this seed. You follow all the key logic down its deep, deep, dark rabbit holes. There's your hook shot right there.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a situation of I'm very glad I don't know in the entirety of the key logic. 'Cause that's terrifying.
I also really appreciate Fred activating the flute to use it exactly once to finish the... Well, he'll be warped away from here when beating Trinex, so he might play it twice. But you gotta love those go mode flute activations.
Okay, I love the random different item dashes with the boots. And maybe my third favorite is the Cane of Samaria, my second favorite is the Cane of Burna, and my first is the shovel.
So people love the Burna dashes because they look really cool. But you know that you can do a cape dash with the exact same input and it's faster?
But it doesn't look as cool.
Yeah, the cape dash is like the worst because you don't even see yourself doing it, right?
Yeah. Oh no, I think hycutype's starting to not be sure where to go fully because he just checked pedestal. So we do know what is on the pedestal now. It is a small key to Ganon's tower. Which... So I've got a question then about Ganon's tower key logic. Technically, would that have been required? Or no?
That is required to access the mushroom, and as well as the drop for whatever junk item that was, and whatever junk item was in the map chest. So it's kind of required. It's required to get some things, but nothing that matters.
Okay. Alright, cool. We've got hycutype heading into pod, which is, again, unfortunately not quite the right play. At this point, it is Fred's race to lose. He has all 7 crystals, and he can just go and kick a Ganon in the face. Or the bacon.
So, hycutype is making a incorrect decision here, but I'd like to point out the dynamic of the race, which is hycutype can probably infer, based on where that pod big key is, that Fred was very unlikely to make this play, and hycutype's done a lot of things that were unnecessary, like upper GT. Ice is the obvious decision. Hycutype is probably metagaming if ice is the answer, I've lost. And he's right, so this is one of those good plays that isn't going to make him win. But the fact that he's willing to make this play shows that he's playing smart, I think.
I would agree with that. I would also agree with Chat. There are 2 types of runners. Those that always check ice and those that just don't. I'm gonna put myself in the category of I don't like checking ice. At all. It's the worst.
See, chat's saying OOT and LTTP are the same thing. I'd love checking this ice. I don't like checking that ice. But more importantly, Fred is just slain Ganon. Assuming he avoids any pit-related mishaps, he's going to finish shortly. Good games, Fred.
And Fred is going to finish with a time of 2 hours, 11 minutes, and 36 seconds. And it does look like that hycutype is going to forfeit almost immediately afterward. GG to both runners. This was not an easy seed.
No, this was a tough seed, and I think you saw real high-level play from both sides. Like, this seed really gave them the runaround in a lot of different ways, and 2:11 is a strong time, and hycutype was on pace. He was still going to sub 2:30 this if it came to that.
Oh, absolutely. I believe that is a hycutype joining us. GG.
Yes, it is. Thank you. So I imagine this is in Ice Palace.
Yeah,
Yes.
you would imagine correctly. I actually speculated near the end when it was pretty clear that Fred had won that you were making the play to pod, assuming if it was an ice you'd already lost. Is that correct?
Basically, yeah, because it was a mistake not to pick up the Smith when I was down there. And then, of course, he had the Fire Rod, which meant I would have gone into ice. So that's sort of what I expected. I didn't really regret the upstairs GT play. That felt like it was logically indicated from early on. You could have had 3 of those keys almost right away, I think. 4th one was on the pedestal, so Aghanim 2 wasn't great, but...
Yeah, I don't blame you at all. I was biting at the bit for pedestal since your first clear of CAC, to be honest. Or not for the pedestal, for upper GT, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. And I felt, I don't know what it was like in the early game, but I sort of suspect I had a lead, maybe? That's what it felt like. I felt like everything sort of went my way early on.
So I can summarize now that Fred is joining us, and good games, by the way, Fred. Excellent raid.
Thank you. Good job, Haiku.
Good
That
game,
hurts
Fred.
my head.
So, you're right that early on you had a small lead. You actually mirrored each other very closely early. The difference being that you found Paradox earlier, so you had the lamp a little ahead of time. It didn't change things too much. You approached parity. Going into the mid game, you found a lot of value kind of in sequence hycutype, while Fred found entrances that had things he didn't need. But as we started to kind of progress toward late game, of course, you hycutype failed to find like the last couple pieces, that mirror especially, for a very long time. Fred found the path to the mirror first, and it didn't open up quickly for him, but it just kind of put him in position to let the rest of the seed fall together. And there was kind of this exciting bit of drama that Fred punctuated with a bomb that Fred didn't save warp to the old man for a very, very long time, and we knew it was required, and it was just kind of a question of when he'd finally reach the Mire region. Any thoughts on that, Fred?
I misread what I had. Apparently my handwriting, hastily scribbled down onto my tracker. My tracker, of course, those of you who don't know, is a paper notebook that I write stuff down in, each race, and therefore I handwrite everything. And my old man exit and old man entrance caves for Death Mountain got flip-flops. So every single time I looked down, I said, "Oh, if I save warp to the old man, I'm coming out at Swamp Palace, so I don't need to do that. I can go somewhere else."
Oh no.
And so I figured in the end, I thought I needed the flute in order to get to Mire in the first place. That's why I was going a lot more towards item hunting, because I thought I needed the flute. And so finally I was like, okay, Swamp Palace is probably the best place here with the chest. I can see what, see what I got out of the, off the dam draining, and then go get the, trade in the purple chest to the old man. And I walk out and it's not Swamp Palace. I'm in the middle of Mire.
So the magic of that is in the end it didn't matter, because if you hadn't misclick, I assume that was a misclick, right? And you accidentally save warp to old man and didn't mean to.
No, I was as I said, I thought it was Swamp. I thought it was taking me out at Swamp Palace, the vanilla Swamp Palace spot, and I had purple chest.
Oh,
and
yeah,
I just
so that's
drained
what
the
you were
jam.
thinking.
So I was
But
thinking
even
it
if
was
you'd gone
shorter.
to Link's house there, flute was the next thing you were going to find anyway. So
Yeah.
it actually would have worked out just fine. And I thought
I got
you might
lucky
be
on that
ready to. Yeah, I thought you might be ready to check top of castle, which was the back of Old Man. So you could have found Old Man by going backward through his cave as well.
Yeah, as I say, if I'd gone in there and found that, and that's probably about where I was going to go next, but if I had found that, I would have sat there scratching my head saying, what the poop, when it definitely didn't match up on my entrances, and so that's probably when I would have figured it out and cursed royally.
But yeah, that was a very exciting race. Kind of the last decisive moment was your decision to go into Ice Palace, which had, of course, the Turtle Rock Big Key. What was your thinking there, as opposed to, say, going to Eastern or Pod and trying to find your last crystal?
I was there. I assumed I was behind because Haikyuu's incredibly solid as a player. And I said I had to gamble on things. Ice Palace itself has 8 chests in it, even with, Eastern having 6, and possibly being what I wanted to go in. I said I had to gamble. I was literally right there anyway. It seemed like that was going to be the play to possibly make things work.
And indeed it was.
Got lucky.
Yeah, that was. And I actually commented about your handwritten notes when you went to the wrong entrance trying to go back to Eastern. I figured you made a note, Eastern's right by a save warp or something.
Yeah, it was, for some reason, I wrote just Lost Woods top, but for some reason, I think there was something important at the chess game was at the Bonk Rocks there. Oh, I'd written down near that that Bonk Rock because I forgot to check that one for a while where chess game ended up being. And so I just crossed the 2 when I took a look at my paper.
Yeah, I've been a victim of penmanship too. We might be the only 2, but it happens.
Oh no, I'm right there with you.
Well, everyone else seems to use the magical, clicking trackers, but I've just never been able to pull that off because typically, I've got exactly one monitor. And
Oh,
so,
thank
especially
goodness,
with other
someone
stuff.
else.
Yeah, no, I'll run off my laptop, and so I don't have another monitor, and therefore, clicking on stuff on there, plus having other windows open to potentially talk to chat and everything else ends up being way too crowded on the one monitor, and I can't pull it off.
I understand completely.
You right there just sung the song of my people. But yeah, let me pull up the bracket real quick and see the implications of this result. It looks like you, Fred, are going to move on to face Magnificent, and it'll take me a minute to trace where hycutype's going to go. But Fred, any thoughts on that matchup?
I didn't think I was getting there in the first place, so I'm just gonna have to keep. Sorry about that. Keep playing here. I've had some good luck here since I started playing Crossworld Keysanity, so I'm just gonna if we've got someone already making round 3, it's going to be a really tough fight. So I'm just gonna put everything out there and do what I can to try to do my best, and hopefully I learn some stuff in the process.
Well, I gotta say, I've been pretty impressed at the speed at which you've been picking up this mode. It's almost like you have a lot of experience with how randomizers work under the hood.
Can't imagine anything of the sort. No, I mean, it's helped out a bit, knowing, okay, the fact that there's a lot of logics, there's logical chains that form, and trying to analyze that as I'm playing to make my gambles as to where things go. It's sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but at the very least it helps out on that side of things a little bit. So, just hopefully I can continue to correctly interpret the logic here.
Yeah, and to jump to hycutype's side, he will be playing the winner of Super Nintailor and Death King 2, which still has to resolve. Any thoughts about that, hycutype?
Well, I was looking ahead to Super Nintailor a while ago before we both lost. So I know he is a superior NMG runner. He's going to out-execute me. I also know he's sort of new to cross keys and has had tracking mishaps, so I don't know. I'm hoping for a seed where execution isn't the determining factor.
You want the lots of early swords, lots of complex logic is what you're hoping?
More like late boots is gonna be a big one. I don't know about swords. That's late boots is the big thing, I guess.
Late boots late boots pair really well with those seeds where you just have to take so many connectors, right?
Yeah, and lots of little entrance things. Things like mirroring behind the rocks on East Death Mountain. So.
Yeah, I think there's about 1 million of them, and at this point, I'm pretty sure you know every one of them.
Yep. Didn't help me get to the mirror, though.
Well, we both thought it was going to be an upper GAN.
I was cheerleading Mir and Upper GT. If it makes you feel better, hycutype, the only difference between how you lost this race and how I would have lost this race is I would have charged down the wrong path you eventually took much faster.
Yeah, I mean, that's when I went upstairs GT, I was really expecting to find the mirror. That was the item I was looking for. I felt it was logically indicated, and it was worthless. And then,
yeah,
of course,
you gotta.
When I did find the mirror, it was almost that I was getting down to the last few things I could do when I went in there. There was some dungeon double dips I could do, but that might have been one of the last entrances I had.
Oh boy, speaking of dungeon double dips, the key logic for this seed was something I'm really glad no one really paid attention to.
Yeah, did you guys pick up on the insane key logic that was the hook shot?
Yeah, I laughed at one of the Meyer keys when I found it, but I forget where I found it.
Turtle Rock big key chest?
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, and don't forget there was a Turtle Rock small key in Upper GT and another one dropped by Armos Knights.
Yeah, so the eastern big key was
In the big chest of Swamp Palace.
Yeah. So you had
Yeah,
to
Swamp
double-
Palace had a ton of keys in it.
So you had to logically it wanted you to go into Hookless Swamp.
Yeah.
Hookless Swamp and Hookless Upper GT.
Good times.
Yeah, I was in awe of the logic. I knew it was just a remarkable thing all around how far back in this seed's generation that hook shot was. But it gave you 2 swords, so that was pretty good.
Yeah, so I kind of expect maybe I didn't have the boots first if he went South Shore, but I imagine I had that hook shot and clear of Mire first.
Yeah, that's definitely true. That was actually a big part of your... When you cleared Mire was the part where we said hycutype is actually kind of building a pretty good lead here. Because right around that area, you did that, you got the stuff out of GT. We knew at that time you needed the desert big key from that, so you got a required item and nice items. A lot of things came up good for you in a row right about that time, but then you kind of hit the malaise of doing everything and finding nothing, so that's how it
Found
goes
nothing.
sometimes.
I found nothing for an hour after that, something like that. The only thing I felt good about was going through desert with both keys and the boots already. So I got all the items first pass.
So I'd actually like to ask something. Mire was green pendant. With the Cane of Samaria being vanilla, what possessed both of you to say, you know what, let's just finish this instead of just save quitting and leaving?
Because it's 2 items and I'm not coming back. And if I have the chance to single dip and take that chance, and especially because it was early on, and Vitreous is in logic with only the big key and the cane, and the big key, of course, led to the cane. So that was just in logic very early. And the lamp was early.
Yeah, pretty much the same thing here. It was a case of I didn't want to have to go back over there because it was a pain to get over there in the first place. I think I was actually kind of low on stuff going into there in the first place in terms of potential options. And at that point, I knew I'd seen Sahashala. Of course, I misplaced him because of my handwriting. But I then was like, at least if I get that done, I've got whatever he has. It could easily be the logical next step. You know, Keysanity, I basically just clear dungeons pretty much full clear until it's time to go. There's really, you don't know whether or not something will be there that you need. So that's pretty much the strategery I use.
Yeah, we were in general kind of in awe at that Misery Mire. Hookshot and Red Cane was a lot of value in a inconvenient place. But yeah, I'll just say once again, thanks to both of you for putting on a fantastic race. Before we wrap up, any final thoughts?
Thank you guys so much again for doing commentary here. It's been a lot of fun. I'll be looking forward to playing it back and looking forward to continuing on Haikyuu. Hopefully I'll get to meet up with you at some point here in the bottom bracket, although I'll still be scared of that one because you are an incredibly solid player and you're going to make a really good run down there.
Yep. Good luck the rest of the tournament, and thank you for the commentary in the race.
Yeah, and before I wrap up, I'd like to thank Rainbow Poogle for jumping in. He's been helping us in a lot of these commentaries here, and I would also, of course, like to thank our trackers, Mind to Me and Terry J. They both did a good job keeping things sorted out. Without the volunteers we have, we wouldn't have these restreams, so thanks to everyone for the help.
So what is the next race on the agenda for tomorrow?
Tomorrow we have... Well, I shouldn't be on this page and type at the same time because I just accidentally deleted a match from the schedule. I'll have to fix that. But
Oh
my
dear.
push to talk is a key.
Oh
But
dear.
we have a lot of races tomorrow. which are very hard for me to look at while talking. Looks like we have Dracarys versus T-Stew and HXC Jetters versus Linklin. We have Dante versus Perdwong. We have Matt versus Sir Linkalot. P-Train versus Slowpoke. All coming at you tomorrow at all hours of the day, starting at noon Eastern, going all the way to 9 p.m. Eastern.
Sounds fun. I think that just about wraps it up, yeah?
Yeah, I think we're just about done here. Thanks a lot to everyone for watching, and we will catch you guys next time.
Good night, everybody.